everyone. Welcome to the reMadzimai, the Council of Women. This is a space where we as women from real walks of life, we sit together, speak honestly about the things that shape us, the womanhood, the sisterhood, marriage, culture, singlehood, and everything in between. We are not here to judge you, and we are not here to tell you how to run your life. But what you hear today are our opinions, personal, lived, and honest, from women who have carried their own burdens, fought their own battles, and learned their own lessons. Not two journeys are the same, and that is exactly why everyone in the table today matters. Because somewhere out there, there's a woman who is going through something that she cannot speak about, and she feels alone, and she also feels that no one understands her. And it is for her that we gather today and we speak on her behalf. So whether you agree with what is going to be said today or you don't agree, you are welcome. Pull up your seat and open your heart and know that you are not carrying that burden alone. This is reMadzimai, and I'm your host, Titi Grace Nyambe, joined today with my beautiful panelists. Can you please introduce yourself, Gamu?
Okay, my name is Gamchirai Chitembwe. I'm a mother of 3 and I'm a nurse.
Hello everyone, my name is Tsunga Mchineripi. I'm a mother to 5 beautiful girls. I've got a niece. I'm formally employed. I'm also a farmer. It's good to be here.
Today we're going to talk about grief. Grief is something that you're never prepared for. It's something that just comes. You can read a book about it and you can actually watch every documentary trying to understand grief, listen to sermons, but when you actually lose someone very close, that's when you really understand what really grief is. So, because grief is not just sadness, it is more than that. When grief comes, there is total reorganization of your life, especially when you lose a spouse, a parent, a child, or anyone who is very close to you. So, today we are going to talk about grief, our experiences. So, to start with, I'll start with Gamu. Have you ever experienced grief, and how did it feel?
Yes, I have experienced grief. The most emotional one was when I lost my parents. But at the same time, I lost them when I was very young. My mother died when I was in grade 1. Then my father died when I was 5 years.
Okay, thank you, Gamu. So that saying which says it gets better with time, does it resonate with you? Does it get better with time or the pain still remains the same?
On that saying, think it all depends with the situation that we're in. Because what can make you remember those people is when you're going through something or when you're having memories about those people, it gets worse. And like myself, I lost my parents, right? So like right now, each time when I think my kids doesn't have any grandparents, vanotonzwa vamwe vachiti toda kuenda kwagogo, toda kuenda kumusha, but mine, they don't have that in their life. So when you hear them saying that, it comes back to you, then you start to grieve again. So it doesn't have time. But I think what heals is when you get back to the memories and you share, you do things that they used to love. But at the same time, with my parents, I can't remember anything. But I just know that I lost my parents. I lost the love that I was supposed to get.
That's very true. Tsungi, have you ever experienced grief?
Yes, I have experienced grief. The thing is, I'm not sure if when it happens when you're older, you feel it more, or when you're younger, you feel it less. I wouldn't know. Because for me, there's no feeling that I can actually say this can best describe how grief feels. The background to it is I lost my father about 10 years ago. Then I also lost my 4 years ago. And I've lost my only sibling, my brother. 7 months ago, I lost my brother, my young brother. So that means I had these people, these three people in my life, the people I would say closest to me, and they're not there anymore. And for me to say at one time when I lost my father, it felt different. When I lost my mom, somehow better or different, or I knew how to handle it, would be a lie, because there's no feeling you can actually match to how grief actually feels. But what I can actually say grief is, I can actually probably just try to describe it as this invisible luggage no one else can carry for you. And you have to move around with it every day of your life. You've got, like what Gamu was saying, there are days when it feels slightly lighter and you feel like you're on top of the game, you're on top of the situation. But it takes something small to just trigger it back. It can probably be just a photograph. It can probably be just a text message, or even a song that probably we all loved as a family, that can just trigger and you're back at square one. So there's no real word to describe the feeling of grief. But all we do is basically just learn to carry this invisible luggage as we carry on with our lives.
Yeah, I agree with what Tsungi said. I have also experienced grief. When I lost my grandma in 2020, it wasn't something easy. And I think I still feel the same pain even up to now. Each time I think about her, and I recently lost again my uncle who was very close to me. They say it gets better with time, but I don't really. Maybe because you'll be occupied with some stuff as time goes on, and you'll be trying to maybe to forget about it. But the moment you start to think about it again, oh my God, you are back to square zero. You'll be crying, and you just be wishing like, I wish they were here with me. Even when you do your achievements, you just be thinking about those people. Like, I wish my grandma was here experiencing this with me. So I don't know. I don't think it gets better with time. I think you just learn to live with your grief. Also there's this saying that people say when you lose someone, maybe a spouse or maybe a child, and in Shona they say hands were what do you say about that, guys? Come.
That saying, what can we say? That saying, I think it really hits hard on a person when you say that, because it's like you are saying zvakafanira zvinofanirwa kuitirwa inini, saka ndosaka zvaitika, saka zvinotorwadzisa munhu more than dai usina kutotaura that question. I know people don't have perfect words to say when someone is in grief. So I think the best thing that they should do is just to keep quiet, or just to pat that someone on the back and just be around that person who is grieving. Because the moment you say a lot of words, you end up saying things that will injure that person more, rather than saying words that are going to heal that person. So those normal saying, but I think it's not perfect for the occasion.
Yeah, that's very true. Sungi, what's your take on that?
Honestly, I wish if people actually don't have anything to say, to just keep quiet. You know, such
Yes.
words like waida kuti zviitirwe ani are so painful. When you're grieving, you don't want to hear that, because if there's anything, that person who's probably saying it does not understand the relationship you probably had with that person you have lost. And most of the times when we lose these people, some may actually be ill. They could have been suffering from some illness for a long time, but we are never ready to lose people. So when they say, "Waida kuti zviitirwe ani," to me, it's actually an insult. Sorry to say. It's an insult when I'm grieving. At the same time, there's this saying, yes, it gets better with time. That's another lie. It is a lie completely. Like I said, my mom passed away 4 years ago, but to me, it's as fresh as yesterday. My brother passed away 7 months ago, but I feel it every day. So it really never gets better with time. But what happens is we get to learn to pretend more. We pretend more. We pretend like we are okay even when we are not okay. We learn to live with it. We somehow find a place within ourselves to hide that pain so that we're able to soldier on. Not that it gets better. No, it doesn't. We just somehow readjust our lives and find a place to hide that pain. So my advice to people, honestly, if someone is grieving, don't go there and say, why not Jitruani? If you've got no words, you'd rather just rub their back so that they at least know and feel that you are there with them. That's it. You don't have to say something when you go to offer your condolences. You're not forced to say words. It's just like those people who, when they see you're grieving, the first thing they'll come to think of is sharing Bible verses with you. Trust me, when someone is grieving, for me, that doesn't work. There are times where you don't even want to hear the scripture. It's that deep. You're confused. You want to try to understand what exactly is going on. And grief is good at that. It's good at confusing you. So if someone is to come to you with these Bible verses or, or the words, it is well, you'll be fine. Honestly, you don't want to hear those words. You'd rather have that person just be crying with you, probably rubbing your back. And also, you don't want people who will be telling you, stop crying. I don't know. Maybe that's my own experience. But someone who's coming when you're grieving, telling you don't cry or it's enough, it's off. You don't want to hear that, but you want that person who's probably giving you tissue when you're crying, someone who's probably just offering you water when you're crying, someone who's just rubbing your back, someone who's probably checking if you've eaten something for that particular day. That's the person you want. Or even someone who asks you the question, what would you want me to do to make you feel better? That's better than someone who's going to come and say, why don't you do it? You see, so that's my experience with this thing and dealing with people when you're grieving.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just to be there for that person. Keep quiet. Don't say anything because you don't know the extent or how your words are affecting that person. And also, some people, for example, when you lose a child, you are grieving, you are crying, and then they come to you and say, I also lost my child. I'm the one who is crying at the moment. I'm the one who have lost this one. And just give me time to grieve my child. And you are not telling me about your child. What do you want me to do? Is it like you want me to forget about my grieving and then I focus on you? What do you think about that, guys? Come.
Like I said, when someone is grieving, let's not say a lot of words. Because those words, it all depends with me and how am I going to take it. If you say, I also lost a child, so you want me to forget that I lost my child and we are now starting to concentrate on your child, that's not fair. I think you just have to make sure we just don't say a lot when someone is grieving.
Yeah, I agree with what Gamo said. Sometimes it's just better to keep quiet, guys. Tsungi, what would you do if someone comes to you and says, I also lost my brother? How would you react?
Honestly, again, when someone is grieving, they're very sensitive to your words, even the way you look at them. They're just sensitive to everything. So words like that are trying to bring that feeling of comparison. Whereas when you're grieving, you don't even want to compare. Like I'm saying, I've lost 3 very important people in my life, but I cannot even compare that this death was not as hard as this death. I can't even compare, even after I've lost my own father, my mom, and my only sibling, my brother. I can't compare. So if someone then comes to you and they're trying to push that comparison feeling in your face, it does more harm than good to you. But unfortunately, we don't live in a vacuum. Hey, we are not isolated. We'll always find people who come with such words. They will come. They will be there. You're not the first. You're not the first to lose parents. I never even met my parents. Such statements come from people. But here we are, we're saying, look, I'm the one who's grieving right now. So you need to put yourself in my shoes, not to try and make me get into your shoes. So I think that's where people get it all wrong when they're trying to comfort someone who's grieving, where they're not empathizing really by trying to bring about this comparison thing of I've also lost somebody. So instead, they should just probably bring themselves back to that point where they experienced grief themselves, so that they can actually have the right words to share to you. So personally, if someone were to come to me and say such like word out Jitrowani, or even that I also lost that certain person, it would do more harm than good. So those are some of the things that even those that are listening should avoid saying to people.
Yeah, I agree with what Tsungi is saying. If someone is grieving, guys, let's give that person time to grieve. Let's not try to compare that person to your situation, because by doing so, you're actually worsening the situation. You're not making that person feel better. For example, that person had maybe 4 children. He or she just lost another child, and you say, you are better, you still have 3 more kids. I don't think it's kind to say those words, because children are different. You can't say, okay, it's fine, I still have 3 kids, so I'll be okay. Loss is a loss, guys. So allow people to grieve. Give them enough time to grieve their loved ones, and don't try to compare yourselves with them, and don't try to put them in your shoes, but rather you are the one who are supposed to be in their shoes, because they are the ones who are grieving. Oh, Gamu, I believe as a nurse, you have experienced grief more because of your profession. You have seen people dying. You have seen people crying for their loved ones. How would you compare it, the grief that you experience when you are at work, seeing other people crying, losing their loved ones, and the grief that you experience personally when you lost someone who was close to you?
Okay, so Gary Chapman once say, grief is the price we pay for love, right? So the deeper the love, the deeper the grieving. So when I lost a patient at work, it really hard on you. It really hits hard on you, because you had tried everything that you think that will work for that person to still be alive. But at the same time, at the end of time, God will do what I think Mwari vanozongoita kuda kwawo. So I think with the patient, yes, unorwadziwa, but then with that someone you love, that love you have for your loved one, it will make the grief to be more deeper, because the love was too deep. As I say, the deeper the grief, the deeper the love, the deeper the grief. You have memories, you have a lot of things that you share together. So grief, normally it means loss of love. So that love I used to have, that means kuti I'll be suffering a lot. So what I'll just be holding on is the memories that we shared together, the things that we used to do together, the photos, the songs that we sing together. So it's different from a patient, because the patient, the only memories that I have is that of taking care of that patient, not social life. I don't have any social life with that person. I don't have any emotions yes, the emotions we shared when we were trying to make that person to stay alive. But with the loved one, is different.
Yeah, simply because a relative, you know that person more than someone you were attending to in the ward. But I feel like to some extent, as nurses, the trauma is just too much. Just watching people die every day, the trauma is just too much. I don't think it's an environment I would
Yes.
want to be like the war of my life, because I feel to some extent as nurses, there should be also some counseling. Maybe after you have nursed someone and that person has died, counseling just to make sure that you are okay, because seeing people dying every day, will actually traumatize you as a person. You know, you were at work and you have lost a patient. You'd find even if when you go home, your mood is already changed. You are already feeling very low because you've already lost a patient at work. So, Tsungi, coming to you, I understand that you recently lost your brother. So, I want you to explain to me, like, did you have enough time to grieve when you lost him? Or you, because of the burden that you had taking care of his kids and also your kids, everyone is just looking up to you. Did you have enough time to grieve, or you didn't have time to grieve because there was actually a lot of stuff that you were supposed to put in order?
I would say probably there was never time for me to actually understand what exactly was going on because I had to be the mother. I had to be the aunt. I had to be the one who's overseeing and making sure everything stays intact in place and life has that continuity feature, in the family. Honestly speaking, I would say when you lose your support system, your timestamp to grieving is really crushed, and you never get time to actually find yourself, to even lock yourself up in a room to just cry. It's very hard to do that, especially when you've got these kids. They are also looking up to you, so it kind of shortchanges you. Life kind of shortchanges you when you lose someone that close and you have to fill in a gap. It kind of really shortchanges you as a person. So there's never enough time to grieve. But what I realized that I did when I look back and I'm trying to figure out how I've actually managed to handle this grieving session and actually having to also be there for my niece and be there for my children is the fact that I bury myself in work. I hide myself in making adjustments that are visible. And by doing that, I've realized that somehow I'll also be healing. So I'll give you a good example of what happened after I lost my brother. During that grieving period, I actually started repainting the house myself. I repainted. And whilst I was doing that, I was keeping myself busy. And at the same time, at the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, fine. Fari's not here anymore. Then what are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? How am I going to carry on? So that's what used to happen to me. I would bury myself in work. In that way, I don't exactly concentrate on just grieving. I'm also participating in the lives of those around me. So in the end, I'm grieving, yes, and there's no time to it because, like I'm saying, there's no end time to grieving. But whilst I'm doing all that, whilst I'm trying to readjust the home, whilst I'm trying to repaint, I'm also then featuring for my children. And in the end, I also think to a certain extent, people around me kind of also felt that they needed to give me time to grieve. So you'd realize that whilst you're grieving, it's also good to accept help when people offer you help. Some will probably offer to just watch your children. Some will offer probably to just be in your home during that time. I would advise people to accept such help because at least then, like I'm saying, that there's no timestamp that you end grieving at this particular point. By doing that, you kind of broaden the time you can also then spend grieving in a way that does not actually change your lifestyle. So let's accept help when you are grieving.
Is there a grief that comes with divorce? Like after divorcing, do you feel some kind of a grief? Because in a way, you're losing somebody who was close to you.
Yes, yes, yes. There is grief associated with divorce. Remember, when you're divorcing, you're losing a part of yourself you probably never felt would leave you. You're losing an identity that you probably thought it would be for the rest of your life. You're probably also then losing that that wall you used to lean on when you needed support and covering. But you're losing that person. And I think the pain of divorcing is actually that excruciating in that at times there is no closure. Remember, when you lose a loved one to death, you actually bury that person. And you know that, okay, this is done. This person is gone. And when you are divorcing, you're actually mourning a life you could have had, because you're probably dreaming of reaching to 100th and, centenary together. But that person is not going to be there anymore. And that person is not dead. So there's no closure to it. The absence of that closure makes it that much painful, because this person is going to carry on their life. You're also carrying on your life. But there was a point where you guys were were one person. You had one life to live together, but it's not going to be there anymore. So it's like you're detaching from a life you probably thought was going to be your life for the rest of your life. Just imagine that you're losing a piece of you, which you're not going to, which might never be replaced. You're losing the dream or the desire you had, which comes with divorcing. So divorce is painful. And it would be a lie for someone to say, I'm done with this without feeling anything, unless probably they were in it for nothing. But when you're in it for real bond, real love, and you planned together, you had this imagined life together with that person, you're definitely going to feel something when you have to lose it. So in as much as it's painful, it's also doable, because you then have to learn to quickly adjust the new setup. You have to learn to quickly accept the new identity. You really have to move from I was married to I'm not married. The moment you quickly adjust to that person is not going to be there for me, I'm here for myself, you adjust better, and the grieving period may also be shorter. Yeah. But once you're done with that, once you put your foot down that, I'm done with this, usually I think with divorce you heal faster. It's different from death.
So would you say
I think when we're talking of divorce, you're not exactly mourning the person, by the way. You are mourning the life which you had. Okay? Let's get this right. When you're divorcing, the attention should not focus on you losing the spouse, or that spouse is not going to be there anymore. But it's more of you're mourning the life that you probably thought you had for all your life. You're trying to, you're in a place whereby you have to let go of what you imagined was the best thing for you. So mourning, that's the difference. Now with death, when you're talking about death, it's that final. There is never going to be a replacement of that person who's gone, because once they are gone, they are gone. Now, when you're dealing with divorce, yes, that life you had with that person is gone, but there's still that hope that you have another life. So already when you're dealing with divorce, there is hope for life. When you're dealing with death, there's more of that finality issue to deal with. So I would say the pain of death is more than the pain of divorce. Because with divorce, even though you're not going to be with that same person, but you are going to find yourself. You're going to find you. You don't have to necessarily get married again, but you're going to be in that position some way, somehow after the divorce, where you have to create a new identity for yourself. And to me, that is hope. And it's a chance to rebuild. It's a chance to reconnect. And it's a time whereby when you're dealing with that grief, you're also trying to bring out that person who's also stronger by themselves. So there's more hope, or there's more positivity when you're dealing with divorce than when you're dealing with death, because death is death. It's final. Mom, dad will never come back. My brother will never come back. But with divorce now, we're saying, okay, yes, I've lost my marriage, but I'm still this mother who has to carry on. I'm still this woman who has to carry on. So it is better grief to deal with. That's what I think.
Yeah, getting divorced or losing someone who's close to you through death, in a way, you feel the pain because you have lost. But when it comes to death, it's irreversible. That person, you're not never going to see that person again. And losing a husband, you'll be mourning the life you thought you were going to have, or the good life that you had with that person. So, Tunga, I also want to ask, Do you think or feel like during the divorce period or after divorce, the kids also experience grief, or is just the adult person only?
They do. When the divorce has children involved, the children also feel it. Remember, these kids were growing up having mom and dad in the same home, but it's not going to happen ever. And they also experience children probably at school who are talking about, my mom did this, my dad did that. But for them, it's different now. They can't talk about my mother and my dad in the same context. They probably will talk about their mother. I did that and this and that with my mom, or I did that and that with my dad. It's never in the same context. It's never in the same environment. And that affects them. Remember, children, when from kindergarten level, they've got this perfect family drawing that they do at school. Remember, there's this mom, there's this dad, there's a little dog or some little pet there in that picture. And that's a perfect family. So for these children, a perfect home for them would be there's a mother, there's a father, and they are the children. And suddenly you bring about this whole divorce thing. They are also affected. So, but then as a parent now, you also have to then come in the gap. They need to feel it's not their fault. They also need to feel that you are still there for them, even when it's just one parent who's going to be taking care of them. They need to understand that you're always going to be there. And I think one mistake that some families probably do is they don't want to involve the children. They don't want the children to know. They kind of try to hide it from the children, especially when they're still minor, that there's a divorce going on. But I think it also helps to treat these minors as human beings. They need to understand that this is going to happen. They need to understand that they're part of that, the divorce. So they feel the pain. So, but then as a mother, then you also need to then to be there to make them feel safe because they feel vulnerable. Remember, this is one guy they thought meant the world to them. This is their Superman. The one was the Superman in that home who's not going to be there anymore. So these kids have that grief in them. And some of them, they can even have behavioral change if you're not careful when you're dealing with this. So you need to keep checking with them. You need to make them realize whatever is going on is perfectly normal. And you also then have that extra job to making sure they actually feel safe. Once they feel safe, they will adjust well with the divorce as well.
What people out there need to know is after having a divorce and you have children, you need also to think about your kids. It's not just you who is going through that, even the kids. So, in the process of trying to find yourself, you also need to pull up your kids with you. You need to find yourselves together. Because I feel like after having a divorce, some women they tend to think that I'm the only one who's going through, and they don't check up on their kids just to find out how they are feeling. And at the end of the day, it really affects those kids in a negative way. They become withdrawn, and some will start even indulging in drugs. So what we are saying is. After going through a divorce, as parents, we need to check up on our children to just to see how they are doing, how they are taking the situation. Don't just think about yourselves. You also need to think about your children because maybe they're actually getting more affected than you are. You would think like I'm the one who's the most hurt person. But if you look at your kids, maybe they're actually more hurt than you are because you are an adult. You know how to handle the situation in a better way than them just waking up and then the father is not here. You need to make them understand and to make sure you are all in the same lane. Yeah. Thank you for that. So, Gam, is there a type of grief that you feel the world does not take seriously enough? For example, I really didn't know that divorcing, you actually go through grief. I only thought like losing a loved one through death, that's the only grief you can experience. So, is there any other type of grief that you feel people do not take seriously?
Okay, so from my own understanding, Grief is just loss of something that was dear to you. So most people, they think people go through grief only when they lose someone they loved through death. But do you know someone who go through grief after losing a job? That person will be having a very hard time. That person needs support. So a lot of people might think it's not something to grieve for, but I think it's actually something that needs that person needs time to grieve about, because it's something that was giving you money, that was giving you the lifestyle that you have. And also the other one is for, you talked about divorce, right? It's also another grief maybe people will not think of. I think that's it. But this one of for losing a job, I think most people will not think you are going through grief.
Yeah, I agree with what Gamu is saying. So, Tsungi, is there a particular type of grief that you feel people do not take seriously?
Yes, I also feel that people don't take seriously when someone is grieving, probably after a miscarriage. It's taken so lightly, but that is so painful. I have friends who have experienced that, and I can tell that it's also a pain that doesn't just go away. You know, it's taken so lightly, and it's sad. It's taken so lightly. I think even in our culture, at times, if the child was probably when the miscarriage was probably when you're giving birth, whatever it is, you're probably even told you can't see that child or things like that, because it's taboo or whatever. It's a myth that you can't see. It's within our traditions, you can't see that child because it's not a child, something like that. But a miscarriage is a big loss. To me, when I think of a miscarriage, I'm seeing it as losing a hope, losing something you were dreaming of, losing, and it's just suddenly cut off. So remember, this person who's pregnant has anticipations, has dreams of holding that child, has even a future. They even dream of the school they might want to take that child to. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. They miscarry. So it's not taken seriously in our society. I don't know, maybe in the UK it's a bit different, but in our culture here in Zimbabwe, it's not even taken that seriously. And I feel that people who are grieving in that way suffer a lot because they tend not to get enough support from family. I mean, it's a bit different for my friends because I know that it's that deep for them. So when she suddenly starts crying by the thought that I could be having my child, I know it's that deep. But in many instances, even the people around such people who have suffered that loss, they don't show that much compassion towards someone who has lost, someone who has miscarried. That's one.
Miscarriage. What's your take on that?
That is so deep. People might take it lightly because you have not yet seen the child, so there's no need for you to grieve. But you are expecting to have a baby, then suddenly just lose.
Yeah, I can relate. I think the society doesn't really value the loss of a child through miscarriage because they feel like that child was not here yet. You are not supposed to feel any pain. But that child being in your womb, you had an attachment with that child, and maybe you had a name already. Like you said, you had planned the future for that child, and then that child is just normal. And those people, they really don't get enough support from the society because the society feels like it's petty crying over miscarriage. But I think it's actually something really big. People go through a lot of grief through miscarriage, and the society is supposed to accept that someone is also grieving because she has lost a part of her, losing that baby. She had hopes through that baby, and that baby is normal. So the societies need to understand that we grieve in different ways, and what pains you most might not pain the next person most. But when someone is in pain and someone is grieving, we need to give them enough time to grieve. Don't try to suppress those people saying, for example, saying that it's better you had not touched that baby. The baby was still in your womb. Sometimes it's just better to keep quiet than to say at least wangosati wamuzvara angasati ave mwana. You're actually worsening the situation because you are not really understanding what that person is going through by saying that. So also people who lose their children through miscarriage, they also go through grief. So society needs to understand that the fact of losing something, it means that person is grieving. Even a job, like what Gamu said, someone would just say, you get another job. But just allow that person for that moment to grieve because he or she is lost. Don't say now you can just apply and get another job. No, allow people to grieve. Give people space. Allow them to express their pain. Don't try to suppress their pain. I want to ask you this, like, what is that thing about grief that surprised you the most? What were you not warned about and something that you were not prepared for?
I guess grieving is not an event. It's an ongoing thing. And I think that's something that I was never warned or prepared for. In my head, probably before I experienced all this, I had this imagination that after when there's a funeral, after the funeral, if relatives go to their homes and that's it, we are done mourning. That's it. That's the picture that I imagined. But once then grief entered my home and it came that close, it was all different. I then realized that grief is not even an event at all. You cannot even compare it to an event, but it's rather an ongoing process. There's no end time to it as well. So there are instances where it feels that much heavier. There are instances where you feel like you're going on, you're now strong enough, but then there comes a trigger that will bring you back to it. So it's grief. Once there's that thing, once you're grieving at any particular point in your life, you just need to understand that it's an ongoing process. It's a matter of readjusting here and there and just making yourself strong enough to carry on. Not that it is an event. So that's one thing that happened to me through grief that I ended up understanding that it's not even an event.
It's an ongoing process. Like until you also die, you'll be feeling that same feeling over and over again. So, coming to you, Gamo, when you lost your parents, do you feel like, no, God does not exist? Why would you allow me to lose my parents at this tender age?
Okay, so I wish someone had told me that healing is not about forgetting. It's about learning to carry yourself while you continue to live, love, and hope again. So no one will ever tell you that. And never knew that grief is actually a process. So when we say a process, you will never heal. But what happens is it all depends with the situation that you are in and the time that you are in. That will help you to go through the process.
Okay, Tsungi, did you get angry at God after losing your loved ones?
I can't say I got angry at God. I got angry at life. I got so angry. I became bitter. I became so confused. In fact, I think death just makes somebody a troubled fool. That's the truth. You don't know what to lean on. You don't know what to do. You just a troubled fool, basically living amongst others. So I got really angry at life itself. Remember, at one time I thought, right, I've got my pillars. My pillars exist. I thought I had my mom, to cry on every day. Then after my mom passed on, there I was. We regrouped, me and my brother. It was me and my brother all the time. And that was my support system. So suddenly it's not there. You really feel isolated. And that feeling of isolation kills somebody. So in a way, yes, you could be mourning someone who has died, but at some point whilst you're grieving, you're also kind of dead. There's no life in you at all. So I was really angry at life itself. However, I would say through that, I also then learned quite a number of things. Grief teaches you so many things. You also then learn to appreciate that one day at a time. You also then learn to also appreciate the fact that life is too short because you don't even know when it ends. So why not live each day as your last? So there are so many things, behavioral changes that have happened in my life. I've had really adjusted my life in crazy ways, some may say. Why? Because I'm this person who actually sees life as it's not guaranteed at all. So whatever that I want to do, whatever that I feel will make my children happy, whatever I feel that will make my home a better home or my life better, I want to do it today. So I'm that person. Probably those around me probably would think, okay, she's being careless or she doesn't value life that much. But now I actually value life more. I believe that every memory with the people I love right now matters. Why? Because all those good memories with my dad, all those good memories with my mother, with my young brother is what keeps me going. Every time I look back and I'm thinking, okay, the first time I was in Nyanga was with my family. It's a living memory that I'll keep remembering for the rest of my life, even though they are gone. So I've learned that even through grief, that now what I need to value the most is making as many memories as I can every day. And I mean it like that, every day. So if it means that we are going to be going on holiday, me and my babies, all 5 of them, every second month or whatever, we are going to do that because we need to create memories. I need to create memories for them. I never knows when they will be gone. So I want my children to remember that we had this fun with our mother. I want my niece to remember that, you know what? Yes, I lost my dad, but there's nothing that I've stopped doing because my father is not there anymore, because my aunt stepped in, So each day now is that much important to me. That's something that it was only through grief that I got to appreciate.
That's really good. I think you actually handled yourself in a better way. As for me, I was angry at God. Like when I lost my grandma, she was like a mother to me because I grew up with her. I was like, God, because I used to go to church. I was a believer. I faith in God to the extent that I didn't think that I would lose her. I was angry at God. God, why me? Why did you choose to do this to me? At some point, I stopped going to church because I didn't see any point of going to church. At some point, I even stopped praying because I didn't see any reason. Why should I pray if at the end of the day, God is still going to take my loved ones from me? So I think in the process of grieving, it's also the way you are going to handle the situation. Are you going to handle it in a positive way or in a negative way? So coming to you, Gamu.
Just to add on, I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
it's true. Many people do actually get angry at God, and this whole thing of people actually stop going to church. But the reason was not because I was angry at God. The reason was I was avoiding conversations with people. When you're grieving, like we were saying earlier, that people don't know what to say to you. They are going to tell you it's all right, it's going to be fine, but you're not fine. And there's one question that I think there's one question that I never had the answer for. And I think even people who would text me, I would respond in ways that they would not understand. The question that, how are you? Honestly, when you're grieving, you can't answer that. How are you it sounds simple. It sounds so simple, but you'd realize that because people from church are your circle, right? Are your circle other than family. People from work are your circle other than family. And they will be thinking they're trying to check on you. But that question, how are you? At times when you're grieving, you don't even have the answer to that question. So in the end, you'd then avoid even going to church. Probably, if you come to think of it, host, you probably avoided going to church, not because you're that angry at God, but because you're actually thinking, these people expect me to be fine, but I'm not fine. So it was a way for me, not going to church was a way to actually protect myself from answering questions that I don't want to answer. It was a way of, having this cocoon covering me so that I feel safe. I feel like, okay, I cannot be attacked, because it may sound like it's not an attack, but when you're asking me, how are you? You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Time, it's a matter of time. Those things, when you're grieving, you don't want to hear them. So it's a matter of you. So you'd be probably avoiding church to avoid such. Not that you just
Yeah. It's true. Also, when I lost my uncle, we were very close. There were questions that I became very uncomfortable answering to. Like, people would be asking you, because he was young, people would be asking, like, what happened? I think there is time for everything. There is time for you to ask such questions, like what happened. When I'm grieving, I don't expect you to ask me such questions. Do you want me to explain to you how he died when I'm grieving? So I feel people need to be sympathetic to people who will be grieving. Some questions are not really necessary to ask. You just need to be there for that person. And also that what you are saying, like people will be asking you like, how are you? How do you expect me to be when I've recently lost someone who was dear to me? So just be there for that person. Or maybe you can just say, I'm coming there, I'm coming over to see you. What do you want me to bring for you? I think that's actually better that way. Sungi, on that note, if with relationships, did it affect any your relationships after you lost your loved ones? Were you withdrawn or you were just normal?
I think to my family, they would think I was normal. I was not. Like I said earlier, I think I learned to pretend more. I pretend to be okay for the next person. I pretend to be okay so that my kids don't suffer. I realize that my children feel for me, and they now also have this whole overprotective instinct. They want to make sure I'm always all right. Same applies with my niece. So because I want them to feel comfortable and normal, I tend to pretend to be okay around them. So like I highlighted earlier, that there are places I would avoid going. I would avoid going to church. I would avoid even family gatherings. Why? Because I'm actually trying to just find myself. I need to get the strength to carry on. I'm still trying to readjust, to fill the gaps. And again, times I would then realize that the fact that I was so close to these people, there is no one really who can fill that gap. So in the end, I'm withdrawn. However, on the positive side, I've realized that there are also some cousins. I've got cousin brothers who have actually come in. I've realized that even my brother is gone. I've got these cousins that are coming to fill in the gap. They're checking on me. I'm now even able to even have family gossip with them, things that I only used to do with my brother. So there's a role the extended family should play in the life of someone who has lost close family. And it's unfortunate that at times we don't feel we need people, but everyone needs people. So when you get those people, you realize that relationships do change. So in a way, I'm now very close to even my cousin sister. I don't even, from the maternal side, she also lost her brother, her only sibling as well. So that makes two of us. And we are now these survivor siblings. And somehow we have to keep going. We have to make life comfortable for my aunt. So in the end, what I can say is some relationships actually become stronger even after the grieving. You tend to find more people to then start leaning on. You now tend to have other witnesses in your life, if I can say that, in your everyday life. And you should welcome such people who want to be there for you.
There's also another grief, like maybe you had a friend and you were very close, maybe a best friend, and the friendship just ended. Is this grief valid? What's your take on that?
It is. I think it is to a certain extent, but again, it will never be. We can never compare such grief to death of a loved one. Never. When we've got friendship, there's friendship that becomes family. There are friends that actually become family. And when you lose such a friend, you lose a part of you. So whenever you lose a part of you, there is bound to be changes in probably how you behave or how you relate to other people. Because remember, you were probably this person, you would share secrets, that friend would be your confidant and all, and suddenly you lose that person, that friendship breaks. You tend to then become very secretive, and at times you're probably not so welcoming new friendships. Why you've got that feeling that one day to also disappear, to also break. So in a way, that grief is actually very dangerous of friendship, because then it may mold or shape the person that you become afterwards, because it's a bond that has been broken, and there's a lot of, especially when friendship breaks, there's disappointment as well, which I'm probably not able to express because you're not anticipating such to happen. And there's loss of confidence in people other than your family. So those things, that's what makes us human. Means, and there's a lot of trust issues as well when there's friendship breaking. So already, when those pillars of our humanity are challenged or broken, you tend to become a different person altogether. And I think it's a grief that is also painful. Although I would not try to compare it with death of a loved one.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. Like, simply because that person is no longer in your life and you had the bond, you'd talk about anything, about everything. She knows lots of secrets about you. You really feel the pain, but yeah, it won't be like that one of losing a loved one through death. On that note, Gamu, you were saying something.
All right.
In our society, when a woman has lost a husband, we are told you need to be strong because you're the one who's holding the family together. What's your take on that?
Right. I think people must not say you need to be strong. We just have to allow grief to take its place. As you know, grief is a process. So if you are told to be strong, that means you won't be giving it your all, or you won't be given enough time to go through the process. So for those who say you are strong, they must not say that. They should allow that person, if it's crying, they should say, cry, then, so that at least it will help in the grieving process.
Yeah, I agree with what Gamu is saying. Tsungi, you've lost a loved one and people are telling you, "Ukutofanira kutoshinga, you have to be strong." What should you do?
It's fair for people to feel that they need to tell me to be strong. But honestly speaking, there's no formula to grieving at all. So in as much as they need to bring that awareness upon me that I need to be strong for the family and for everybody else, that's not exactly what should be happening at the time that I have lost the person. At the time that I've lost a person, it's a time for me, for my mind, for my body, for everything to readjust. So there's need for a person to be given space to just grieve, So because by the end of the day, there's no formula. Even after, for anyone, the loss of different people in your family, you react differently. There's no like whereby you say, I know I've been through this road, so I know how to handle it. That's a lie, a big one. So I would say that in as much as people are trying to be concerned and to raise awareness that I actually need to be strong, it may not be the exact words that I would want to hear at that particular moment. It may not be the exact words. However, it's good encouragement. Let's take it on the positive side. It's good encouragement for people to tell you to be strong. So somehow, because remember, I spoke about how when you're grieving, there's lots of confusion in all that's going on with you. you're not sure what to do. You don't know exactly what to make it better, what to make the children feel better or anything like that. So it is good to have people who may tell you to be strong, in as much as it may sound like it's at the wrong timing, but it's good that if there's at least one person who says that to you, it may then probably stick in your head that no, you need to get focused once again, even in the middle of that confusion.
But on that note of people telling you to be strong, you know what, guys? When I lost my grandma, people said you need to be strong for your mom, meaning I didn't have time to cry because I was told I need to be strong for my mom. But I was the one who was most affected with the situation. Why? Because I didn't have time to cry. And it really affected me for years. So I think despite us wanting people to be strong, allow them to cry at least. At least they will be able to express their emotions, their pain. Because if you try to bottle it, you may not be able to handle it, the pressure with time. That's when some people will end up even committing suicide simply because he or she didn't get enough support, didn't get enough time to express the feelings, the pain. You end up being confused, like you feel like the world is crashing simply because you didn't air out what you were feeling. So I feel, in as much as we want people to be strong when they are grieving, we also need to give them enough support. If they want to cry, allow them to cry as well. So there's also this thing in our society. For example, the wife have lost the husband, and people will be like, "What's your take on that?" Tsungi.
Funny enough, that's our society for you. There will be those that are coming to mourn with you so that they check out how you're mourning. There are those that are coming to see to the extent of how much you suffer after that loss. So in our society, we should always expect this. It's true, hey, that if I'm sure if that woman was to know that her friend was the one saying that, they would be really crushed. But people tend to do that. Some tend to even say, how come to ask each other, how come she's not even crying, you know? But they don't know what is holding your tears. There comes a time like that. I think I was one person who has been placed in such a scenario where people are expecting me to be really crying, and I didn't have, was not crying in their presence. Why? Like I said, I've got children. I had a niece, and every time I broke down, my children broke down as well. Every time I broke down, I could not handle or make my niece stop crying as well. So the only way I could manage to control how my children and how my niece was behaving after the loss of my brother was how I was also mourning, how I would mourn my brother. So one way to do that was to make sure I did not cry in their presence. So now for people, when they saw that, they saw someone who's acting as if everything is normal, but everything was not normal. Everything had crashed on me. My brother had died in my prison. My world had crashed. But I had to remember these young lads. I had to remember my children. I had to remember my niece as well in the whole process. So society is that crazy because they're there to judge how you move. And it's only for the close family. They are the ones now who know that after I buried my brother, after everyone returned to their lives, I went into some depression. So many things happened to me because I didn't get a chance to mourn openly, because I had to be protecting my children and my niece. So if society could just let a woman who's mourning her husband be, please. There'll also be those that will even be telling the woman, you have cried enough. I'm sure you have experienced that. People will be telling someone who's mourning, it's enough. You have done enough crying. You're going to be sick. Stop that. Don't do it this way. This, that. Let that person be. Because by crying out, it actually begins the whole process of healing, that crying out. So let that person be. But society will not allow that. Society will even be checking out what you were wearing at your husband's funeral. That was not decent enough. But guys, they are forgetting this person is probably not thinking straight. They're not thinking straight. This is her world crashing. probably she was not even expecting that, and so it's unfortunate that society is always there to judge people when they are in the process of grieving. And I so wish people would step aside a bit when it comes to people who are grieving and let them be, because there is no formula. There is no handbook that when you're mourning, you're going to mourn like this. But somehow someone has to find what will work for them so that they can carry on and soldier on.
This grieving thing has got no formula. There's no handbook for this thing. So just allow people to be. So Gamu, people saying that mukadzi wacho haana kumbochema uyu mukati ari kurwadziwa. What's your take on that?
People will always judge. But I think they should understand that we respond differently to different situations. So they must not compare me to themselves. So when someone is grieving, we must be there for that person, not going there to go and compare with them. And I think we must not act upon other people's expectations. We must react to the situation my way. For as long as I'm doing what you are expecting, I'm now dramatizing the event. I just have to make sure that I do it my way so that I can heal, because I know I've tried. I've mourned my loved one the way I think was the correct way to me.
Yeah, I agree with what.
Especially in Africa, they'll be expecting you to do some things that they are used to. So let's say sometimes you have to be strong because you are the one who is supposed to run everything. She's supposed to be in the corner there crying. But at the same time, who was supposed to do these things that I'm doing? So I think people, they just have to stop judging and just accept what is going on at that time and give you support.
Yeah, and I also feel like people, they grieve in different ways. So Gamu, did grief change you in any way?
Yes, grief does change a person in so many ways. For example, when you're grieving, that's when you start to see those people that are close to you, those people that can stand with you when you are in need of them. So character-wise, you might change.
Yes, I think me too. I agree with what Gamu is saying, that you need to just let people be. It actually, when she was talking, I actually just remembered something, that at times, even when you're supposed to be, you're mourning, right? You've lost your loved ones. There are instances like, for example, in my case, okay, I'm mourning and I've lost a close person, and I'm probably supposed to organize that funeral. So am I going then to start crying and be on the floor so that people appreciate that I've really lost that person who's that much close to me? Or I'm going to stand firm so that at least the funeral goes according to how my close family member wanted it to be. Because I think I was fortunate enough when my mom passed on, and even my young brother, they had time with them. They told me what they wanted at their funerals. They had time to, although I didn't want to believe that they were going and that probably they were goodbyes. Once the moment they died, it all sunk in that, no, as for my brother, he wanted this and that and that and that at his funeral. As for mom, she wanted a funeral smooth, this and that at that funeral. So at that particular moment where I realized that these funerals have to be at least how my loved ones imagined them to be. I step up. I become firm. I become strong. I pretend like I've got everything under control, simply because I want to execute those funerals the way my family member wanted it to be. So for someone who doesn't know the situation or how close I was to my mom or my brother, they would think, okay, she's not mourning enough. She's not even crying. She's, she she's probably enjoying it or something like that. But that is not the case. At times when we lose people we love, we've got that burden of trying to complete that which we feel they did not complete. And when you are placed in that scenario, you really have to gear up. You have to gear up. And, actually, I think it also then brings that healing process as well when you gear up, because after you've done probably what their last desires or wishes, you feel you have accomplished. And that will also help you to heal, to make you move on, to make you feel like, okay, I think I completed what they wanted. And you get the energy, you get the strong will to carry on. But no, society will not be seeing it that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very true. And besides that, you can never please the society. Let's say you have done it the way they want, you have cried, but then the person who have died have got no funeral policy. There is no food. If you cry and things are not in order, they are also now going to say she was busy crying and things were not in order. So you can't really please these people. Either you cry or you don't. As long things are not in order, people will always have something to say. So, coming to you, Gamu, did grief change you in any way?
Yes, grief can change a person, but I think grief may change your life, but it never has to have the final say in your life. There must be some hope that you carry. If you've seen that you have changed, but never forget the purpose of your life, or the purpose that your life is carrying. So I think the change is there when you experience grief, but never forget yourself.
Yeah, that's very true. How about you, Twangi? Did grief change you in any way?
It did. I think I'm not the same person after this whole grieving thing. I'm not the same person. Grief has made me. I would want to say, what can I say? I'm trying to look for the word that best describes me. But in a way, I've become this overprotective person to the people I love. I feel like I have to do whatever I have to do to protect those I love. I feel obligated to be there for those I love because that's what grief has done to me. I also feel that, I think I highlighted that before, that life is that short. And because life is that short, I need to live life. And with that, it means that I've changed the way that I do my life. My life is so centric on my family, such that I want to have as many more memories that way, even when it's my time to go, they will have something to hold on to. Because with grief, I've learned that the only thing that I can hold on to, or that I can carry on with, that the people I loved left me, are the memories. So I keep them so dearly to myself. When I play my brother's favorite song, I don't cry anymore. In fact, I dance it to the last. When I sing my mom's favorite hymn, I do it with all my heart because that's a memory I lived. When I'm probably in politics, I will probably say out that slogan with that much zeal because that's what reminds me of my daddy. So that's what grief has done to me. It has changed me and it has made me appreciate life more. And with that, I know that I'm geared to carry on, even though the pain has not gone away.
I think what people should understand is that we react differently to situations. So their expectations might not match what I'm going through for that time. Especially when you lost someone, sometimes won't be thinking straight, like what Shungi said. So I will be in my own world, and at the same time they are expecting me to act in a way they are expecting. So it's really hard. But what I've learned, maybe I think we must just be ourselves more than to listen to people, to what people say. Because for as long as we want to make those ones happy, we'll never live our lives. It's better to act or do things my way, and then people will talk, but at the same time, you had poured your heart, you have done what you think was the best at that time.
Okay, coming to you, Tsungi, what do you have to say about this?
Again, I'll allude to the fact that I wish someone had told me that there is no formula to grieving. And every time you experience it, it comes in a different form altogether. And you just have to adjust to that new form. There's no handbook. There's no after you're done this, then comes this. There's no process to it. It's just how you're going to handle it. And ultimately the goal though would be so that in the end, you learn to live with that pain quietly. I also would have appreciated if I knew that counseling on its own also does help when you're dealing with grief. There's a part of talking to just somebody that helps when you're grieving. I wish I knew that earlier, that I was not just supposed to keep quiet. At times I was just probably meant to talk to somebody about how I'm feeling, and that would help.
Yeah. That's very true. I think it's the society that surrounds us. People do not really believe in counseling. Like after you lose your loved one, they feel like we are gold. But you really need that. You really need counseling at times. As for me, I never had any counseling, and I wish if I had the counseling, maybe I was going to handle the situation in a better way. So, what we are saying is, after losing a loved one, someone who is very close to you, people really need counseling. Sometimes, maybe there won't be money for that, but I think maybe government they have some programs that can help people after losing their loved ones. I don't know. Is it available in Zimbabwe?
I think some churches do have such programs. Some churches have such programs for counseling sessions. And there are also groups, friendly bench, that you probably find at hospitals, to name a few. There are quite a number of counseling centers actually in Zimbabwe, where you can actually go and have a counseling session. Even at some hospitals, there are psychologists there who can actually also help you for a lower fee. That is in Zimbabwe, because I think counseling is that important. It is. It plays a major role in someone who's in the life of someone who's dealing with grief.
Yeah, so I think maybe it's just about awareness because most people they don't know about this counseling thing. I've seen people who changed after losing their loved ones. Some they actually become very violent, and some become nonchalant, like they just feel like whatever happens happens. They don't care about anyone anymore. So I feel those people they really need counseling. You can't just leave them like that. They need support, so maybe we need awareness after someone lose a loved one. They really need to go for counseling. So, Gamu, at this point, I believe there's someone who have just lost a loved one.
Okay. So to that person, I would say, whatever you are going through today, it's very normal. Take one day at a time and know that you are not weak. You are not going crazy. It takes time to heal. So whenever you feel you want to ask for help, please do so. And keep talking about it. That will make you heal again. And also keep remembering. By remembering, I can say just go through the memories you used to go through together, looking at the photos, maybe singing the favorite song of the person that you have lost. I think that will help a lot.
Okay, thank you for that, Gamu. Tsungi, what do you have to say to someone who's going through a grieving process at the moment?
Depending on how long that person has been grieving. For example, if it's something that has happened recently, what I would do, I'll probably not say much, but I would be that person who would probably open up a room so that that person can just talk. Talking just helps. I would want that person to hold on to the beautiful memories they shared with the person they've lost. Because by the end of the day, once they feel much better, they will actually be looking back at those memories without crying. So I would open up space so that this person is able or feels comfortable to talk about their loved ones. In fact, I would encourage them to go on talking about their loved one. In a way, it does help. I know we tend to want to erase everything about that person, whatever it is, but that doesn't work. What actually helps is talking about the experiences you had with that person, talking about sharing the good memories you had with that person, with even someone. That way, that person would then learn to hold on to that memory, on those memories, and actually let the person go. So in a way, that's what I would advise someone who's actually who's lost someone recently. I would also strongly advise that person to go for counseling. In counseling, again, it will encourage that talking. So that's what I would do to someone who's lost someone recently. But to someone who has lost someone, and it's been a while, I'm talking about probably 6 months ago or something like that, my tone would be a bit different. When I'm talking to such a woman who has lost somebody 6 months back or something, my tone would be different. Why? I would want that person to come to a level where they accept what has happened. And it's not going to be easy. They now need to rearrange their life. They need to rearrange their life in such a way that they will not be burdening themselves with unnecessary pain. They'll carry the pain, yes, but there is some pain which is unnecessary. For example, I'm talking about a woman who lost her husband. When it's been 6 months or so, it's about time she then probably starts to regroup with new friends. I'm talking about a woman who was probably part of couples group, probably couples that hang together or couples at church group. I would tell that woman to exit such groups. She needs to learn to then readjust. If there's no other group that she's fitting in, I would probably advise that woman to create one. Start a widows group, start a widows cookout, something that will make her mind quickly adjust to the fact that that person is gone. I would advise that person to now probably delete the husband's phone number in their phone. I would probably then advise that person, to change social group, because maybe the social group is what will keep her grieving process going on for too long. If you're going to be going out with people that are in their peers, the couples, and you are trying to heal from losing a spouse, that is not going to help you. So that person needs to now rearrange. They need to then associate with people that will probably increase the chances of her getting along or getting out of the grieving process and feeling normal again. So that would be my advice. So my tone would be totally different for two different scenarios. One who has recently lost, or somebody who's still grieving. This has happened a few months back. They need to realign. They need to readjust. And some of that starts off with even the circle of your friends. It can also help to get you back in shape. Because by the end of the day, we want that woman's life to carry on. We want that person to live on. And grieving for too long might actually hinder that. And that's not what we want.
Thank you so much, Tsunki, for saying that. So what we are saying, guys, is grieving. People can experience grief in different ways. Losing a parent, losing a child, losing a job, friendship. And as the society, we need to accept people as they are and the way they are grieving their loved ones. Let's be kind to one another. Let's allow each other to grieve fully and properly. Let's not try saying too much such that that person will end up getting hurt or worsening the pain. Let's just be there for those people. Your presence, just being there for those people rather than saying things like, edazviitirwe ani, urinani, wafirwa nemwana 1, wasarirwa ne 3. let's be kind to people, and let's be mindful about the ways that we are saying to these people. Allow people to cry. There's this person who said, like, on a daily basis, whenever she wakes up, she gives herself at least 20 to 30 minutes of crying every day. That's a routine. She makes sure she cries every day. When she wakes up, 20 to 30 minutes crying. Crying helps. It also helps in your healing process. Also, after losing a loved one, let's support our relatives and our loved ones by making sure that they also go for counseling, because counseling really helps when someone loses a loved one. Let's give them enough support, and let's not just say things for the sake of just saying things. Be mindful of what you are saying to those people. So that was our program today. We were talking about our experiences over the grief and loss that we have encountered. You might also have gone through grief or any loss. Feel free to share that with us in the comment section. So to every woman who was watching today, whether you agreed with what was said today or you don't agree, we really appreciate your presence for this in this space. Whatever you are going through, just know you are not carrying the burden alone. You might be surprised that what you are going through, the other woman is also going through the same. So if you feel like talking, just find someone you can talk to about something that is worrying you or burdening you. Don't just keep it to yourself. We as the reMadzimai, we are not here to judge you or tell you how to live your life. We are just here to share our lived and honest experiences with you. So until next time, keep standing, keep being strong, and know that you are enough. Like they say that like sand in an hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Death can happen anytime. You can never be prepared for that. So what we are saying is spend each day and each time as if there's no tomorrow. Love one another and support each other. That's the reMadzimai for you. And thank you for staying with us. Until next time, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you.